Hey fellow patriots, welcome to Hope for Survival YouTube. Thank you for tuning in. I'm sorry it's been a few days since I dropped my last video to you. Time just has not allowed between travel and a family visit here to East Tennessee and readying things for colder temperatures on the property and picking the last of what was in the garden and getting it in. So here we are. We're not in the truck this time, so hopefully you can hear. I apologize to the folks who messaged me that they had trouble hearing the YouTube videos in the truck over the sound of the vehicle from the exterior. Again, I don't use a phone, I use a camera, so it's not possible to use a headset wired in. So again, I apologize. I am working on a solution to that, but I don't have one at this moment. But thanks for your effort anyway to listen the best that you could. And for those that could hear okay, hopefully you got something out of the information that I was sharing with you. So since the last video that I posted, things are continuing to heat up and expand in the Middle East, and things here in the US are no better. I want to say they're getting crazier by the day, but you know, staying with your feet on the ground and staying focused on your preparedness helps you block some of that out, because all we can do is pick and choose lessons to learn from of events there to better prepare ourselves here. So this video I've titled Stop, Listen, and Learn. So what do I mean by that? Well, a lesson that I learned many years ago that I applied very often in my former life, especially when I was working as a security advisor in special operations around the world. The title of this video reminds me of a former co-worker who more than one time said to me, when we would go out and do vulnerability assessments and risk assessments at U.S. embassies and potential site locations to bring a package into in a foreign country, a former co-worker would tell me, you don't say very much when we're out on site with those who we're doing the assessment for. And that's correct. One of the things that was important was I would do my homework before we went to a location. I would take all the information that was obtainable to me to understand processes of how they worked. And when I was on site, I would shut up and I would listen. I wanted to hear everything they wanted to tell me as to how they conducted business, what were their standard operating procedures at their location. I would take what they provided to me and then I would cross-check it with everything that I read that they had told me in writing how they would do business, and then I would observe how they physically conducted their business. Did what leadership shared to me match the information I had obtained in research and information I observed watching them physically go about doing their business? This is important, okay? And sometimes we may agree or disagree with what we're being told. But if we have conducted business prior to talking with a person, and we know how they state in writing they do business, or how they go about doing their business, we can then determine if the leadership has a clue as to what they say they're really doing. And also if the people are doing what they're supposed to be doing. There was a funny saying years ago when I was very young in my Air Force career, working in security. There was a saying that someone from the Soviet Union had previously stated they would never attack an Air Force base because security was never where it was supposed to be, meaning we weren't predictable. And by not being predictable, they cannot assess you as to the routine that you're continually doing, like driving to work, driving to the grocery store, going for a jog, going to your mailbox every day at the same time. These are patterns, and by those patterns that you set up, you allow people to predict where you're going to be at what time, and it helps them determine if they're wanting to cause a problem or cause harm to you or your family at your home. It allows them to determine when they will do it, because you're predictable and you're a soft target. So I think back to a previous video I recently posted on, they called 911 and no one responded, and the fact that the intelligence factor had failed, and that caused security to fail to some degree, and the threat penetrated their security in depth, their outermost protective level, and got into the populated areas. And there's more to the story. I'm just leaving it at the basic level. This left all the citizens as a soft target because they had not developed any form of community team, any form of community notification system where the people could alert the other people in and around their neighborhood that there was a problem or someone needed help. A tragedy ensued, and there were many people who lost their lives. Okay. And when we are doing our risk assessment for our community, going out and gathering information at numerous levels, from terrain to how well air law enforcement's manned, and the political leanings of our area, and the number of homeless and where their homeless camps are at, and the jobless rates and employment and the whole package. When we assess that information and we gather it up and we become knowledgeable of that information, then when we go about start talking to people, we can assess what they're telling us against the information that we collect, gather up, and also the things that we see. And does it add up, or does it not add up? And if it doesn't add up, it pretty much tells you that the processes are not in line with the decision makers in most cases, which will help you to assess what degree of security you need to put in certain points around your property or around your community. If you have a crime problem in your community on the north side of your perimeter, based on the information that you observe, that you read, and information that you gather on crime statistics, and from talking to law enforcement, then you're probably going to beef up your north side a little stronger than you do your other sides of your perimeters. Okay? And that's applying what you observe and what you see and what you hear. Okay? So the point again is impressing people by telling them everything that you've read is not the point of doing the risk assessment. Okay? Or questioning them, well, this is the information I got off of your website, and that's not what you're telling me. You don't have to share that with them, because you're going to put them in a defensive posture, and that's not why you're there. You're there to get information to help you in assessing the situation, to determine the risk to you, where there are threats, where you're vulnerable to those threats, and how you're going to protect the north side of your property, because that's where the most likely threat's going to come from. So approaching things from the point of when you're building your plans, there's that word plans again. When you're building your plans, you're building how you're going to do things, and those are processes. And your people have to know those processes if that's who you expect to use them. A good example, I was recently teaching a training class to a large group, and I was explaining processes that we have used, and they're proven, and they had been recognized by high-level personnel and high-level organizations who conducted an assessment of how we do things. And when I was about 75% through explaining the processes, a young man simply raised his hand and he asked me, why do I have to do it that way? And I explained, because that is the process that everyone knows, and that's how we do business, and we've proven that it works. So he smiled and said, but why do I have to do that? And this is why it's so important. I often tell people, when you're building plans, A, you need to put them in writing, and B, you need to go out and exercise those plans to make sure they'll work, and having a plan A, a plan B, and a plan C, because almost in every case, your first plan is going to fail. You're going to find a weakness or a vulnerability in that plan that you're going to need to have an immediate adjustment to counter where you're vulnerable. And one of the things I always tell folks, when you're building these plans, you need to make them workable and achievable. Okay, you don't need to have 15 different passcodes and things of that nature, because when the stress level goes up, the last thing that's going to happen, or one of the first things that's going to happen, is you're going to have people that are going to forget, and they're not going to remember if it's a very technical plan. Okay, and they're not going to have time to pull it out and read the plan in order to achieve the plan. And one of the best ways to ensure they know the plan is by continually practicing that plan. Okay, so we write plans to the lowest denominator and make them achievable for everyone. And it's not saying that some people are smarter than other people. It's a proven fact statistically, when the stress level goes up and an incident is happening or has happened, all humans react in a different manner. Okay, and oftentimes I have witnessed the individuals who continually question your process or your plan or a step in your plan. When an event happens, they are one of the first ones to freeze. And when you go into the fight or flight mode, or freeze, they're going to have brain freeze. Okay, It's not a condemnation of that individual. It's simply how people as human beings will react to situations, okay? And by practicing that plan, you're seeing who can do the plan, and you're also getting buy-in from all the participants who are partaking in that plan. Okay, the last thing you want to do is to have an incident in your community and the team that you're planning on to go respond to that incident. It could be something as simple as a chainsaw team. And they could be responding out to a neighbor who needs help getting a tree out of a home or maybe across their driveway. If you got 4 guys who are running chainsaws or 4 people running chainsaws, and then you find out at the time one of the individuals has never used a chainsaw and then they get injured on the spot, now you have another problem. Now you got a medical emergency. Okay? If you have practiced this plan, you're going to find out the individuals who have not used a chainsaw, and now's your time to train them to use a chainsaw. And that's a very simplistic example of what I'm talking about. So that is also a situation where you are simply being quiet and you're observing. You've had the training, and now you're going to go in motion to deploy your plan. And this is where you're going to observe how your team is responding and reacting to the situation. Okay? And then if you have to make immediate adjustments to it because it's real world, real life, and the plan is failing, then you may need to go to a plan B or a plan C. And that's going to be your determination on the ground. Okay? So you've got to, as a leader, and even good team members, you're going to have to be able to do these steps of listening and observing. Okay? It's amazing what you can hear when you train yourself to simply be quiet. Alright? I know folks who can go into the woods in an unknown area. You can blindfold them and take them deep into the woods. And when you take the blindfold off of them, they can close their eyes and they can simply, what they hear will help lead them back to where they need to go. Okay? Hearing and what they smell. Alright? So there's a lot of quality aspects to the human that we have, and hearing and seeing are 2 skills that we all need to have and we need to practice. So I wanted to bring these things up because recently some of the things that I've been reading, and I had mentioned it in a previous video, that as time goes on, the stress level goes up. People are rudely cutting people off, and they're criticizing people's efforts who are trying to help other people. If you don't agree with someone, it doesn't mean that you have to sit. If your life's not in jeopardy, you do not have to sit and type a line on something and criticize what they're doing or saying. There's a time for that. You can send a one-on-one message, or just simply, as I tell people often, things that you watch, things that you read, training classes you go to, take what's positive that you can apply to yourself and to your community, and forget the rest. Alright? There's a lot of folks out there, to include myself, who are simply trying to help other people. Alright? There may be 10 ways to do a task, and as long as it's not life-threatening, myself and podcaster B and podcaster C, we may have 3 different ways we're suggesting that you do something. Okay, it doesn't mean that any of those ways are perfect. Okay, but it may be a way we do it because it works for us. And if we're talking to someone who doesn't know a way to do it, we're simply saying, hey, this is how I do it and it works for me. You might want to try it, or you can research it further and find another way to possibly do it. Again, as long as it's not a life safety issue and putting someone's life at risk. Just as time goes forward and the tension levels continue going up and so forth, just be sensitive to that, okay? So, hey, if you haven't subscribed, please reach up and subscribe. Please share with someone you think that maybe the information will help them. If you like the information in this video, please hit like. And again, thank you for tuning in. I hope to be able to drop some more videos in the next few days while I'm stationary and not on the road for the next few days. So if you have any questions, you can email me at preparedness101@protonmail.com. You can visit our website at hopeforsurvival.com. I've been posting the last several weeks segments of our 32-page Hope for Survival checklist that covers about every gamut of preparedness, from food, water, babies, kitchen, vehicles, cooking gadgets, and so medicinal communications and so forth. You can find them there, or you can simply email me and ask me how you can get those checklists. So take care, keep your head on a swivel. Things are pretty tense out there. I've noticed a lot of the grocery store shelves are getting bare, so get it while you can. Prices are going up and the supplies are starting to dwindle, it appears. So take care, and we'll talk soon. Bravo Echo out.